Spam.
Welcome. I'm just going to share this out as well on my
yeah, let's share out. Share. Everybody share out, please. I'm not going to spend too long sharing this time there because I know it's like people come on, they're like, this is boring. No one's talking.
Oh, yeah. It's not coming up from Be the Change Collective page. It's
Again.
not actually working. Oh, no, it's working.
Cool.
Hello, everybody.
Did you have a topic in mind, Chris?
Sorry?
Did you have a topic in mind?
I thought we'd just come on, see how it is. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. Just have a little chat. Share a story, share publicly. See if anyone wants to join the conversation. Since we have a viewer, that might be us.
That's me.
Yeah.
Oh, you, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I'll start doing more of these anyway. I think this is good if we can get these live streams out on social media and stuff. YouTube, it could bring a different aspect to the community, and people can see this like this anyway. And if people can share out these on social media, then we can talk about good ideas. And there's a page on Facebook called Shinny, which I've told you guys about before, and his whole page is about his with addiction, right? And he talks about addiction, and he gives supporting live streams and things like that. And he has other people that are part of his kind of collective that go on and do live streams as well throughout the day, give advice and there for people, and people can comment and say, yeah, I'm struggling at the moment or whatever. And it's just people have that sense of community. And he also does a charity, so he gives away money to people that are in need, essentially, or just, giveaways and things like that. So, and it's a really cool page, and I just really like that. I think it's a really cool thing to do as a collective, to talk about self-improvement on different streams, and just have them going throughout the day. And what we want to do with Be the Change Foundation as well would be a great way of getting that out to the world and saying, like, how can people actually find out about us and what we're doing for people? And if people are in need, they can share that out and say, oh, well, there's this charity, there's this foundation that is like to help people, if it's the right situation.
I think one thing I would like to talk about today actually is in relation to what's been going on in certain markets. So, for example, the cryptocurrency market has bombed in the last couple of days. And I mean, of course, there's people have attachments to money, and livelihoods are being affected. But what really struck me was the fact that twofold. One, a lot of people are posting up on Twitter and in various kind of Discord communities about how low they felt, how they felt they couldn't go on because they did not move, and they lost a lot of money, and money that they couldn't really kind of afford to lose. They didn't know how to tell their wives, and really, really low moments. And then also the kind of responsibility that people have when they share information in regards to, you should buy this coin, or you should do that, And it really got me thinking in regards to our own personal responsibilities when it comes to sharing information, whether it's well-intentioned or not, the responsibility of imparting information, and also the perspective of money in one's life, because it really is tragic to hear when people contemplate ending their life or doing something very tragic as a result of money. And so I just wanted the guys' opinion on that, those two areas.
I feel I'm qualified to talk on this because a few years ago I did actually go through something like that where I actually borrowed a lot of money to start essentially a business, but this business turned into binary options trading, and I literally flatlined all of that money within a matter of days by just being ignorant. And I felt a bit suicidal after that, like at one point, but I also knew, I was like, life goes on and it will be okay. And I had that mindset of like, I know what I want to achieve. And really that's a big part of that was time freedom and being able to work with the people that I want to work with and just being free. And so I knew I was going to create that, but this was just like I had to go through that experience of losing all that money in order to find my value. Because we can put all of our value inside a cryptocurrency, and we put all of our, some people will, many people have put a lot of their savings into cryptocurrency, in some cases a lot or all of it, and then they kind of attach their value and meaning to their cryptocurrency wallet, and then all of this orchestrated bearishness from massive institutions and big whales across the world is that they're doing this to fleece the public. They're creating this massive dip, but it's a trap. It's a bear trap because it's just about to spring back up and go up to beyond 60,000 US dollars per Bitcoin. So it's like we have to really work with that. Sorry.
Well, but this, so
you had it here first.
yeah.
That,
Yeah. So the question was, well, like the responsibility of giving advice, kind of thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like saying like that's a dangerous thing to say. Like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's no, it's going to go back up. It's going to be going up to 100 grand, now, and it's like this is a trap potentially, But to say that, then there's people following people's advice and buying Bitcoin at certain times, and then losing a lot. But I think there's a lot to be learned from that, and it's a lot of it is naivety, I think, isn't it? It's getting the wrong time or whatever. And those people that are experienced and knowledgeable in that sense and in that area, they're benefiting from a lot of people's naivety.
what I realized,
and maybe there is some evil or nasty people out there that are deliberately doing that as well. Like they want others to lose so they can gain, in a way. Yeah.
but it's not so much the movement of the price because it's a number, and effectively you don't lose until you sell, right? But I think what I found really kind of was made clear to me was that when people, let's say, put money into the bank, they do so with an intention. It's to save, or it's for a rainy day, or whether it's to mortgage, etc., etc. When you deposit money, it's for a specific reason. And likewise, when people put money into the stock market, or when they put money into cryptocurrency, or whatever speculative asset they want to do, they're buying a dream. They are marrying that with their hopes and dreams. They see what they want to be in the future, and this is their way of doing that. And so in a way, when if it doesn't work out, as in you've played your hand and the market turns on you, whatever, it's not just a hit on your livelihood, it's a hit on your hopes and dreams. And I think that really hurts people, because it's like I went for it, or I tried to go for it, and I fell short. And I think that there's a lot of need, I think, in that particular sphere, whether it's the stock market or whatever respective asset, to have that kind of healing and that meditation and that ability to share with people that your hopes and dreams are separate to what's just happened. Your hopes and dreams are personal to you. It's not attached to any one object, and neither should your hopes and dreams be determined by any one object, whether that be money. And it's really sad to see the community went so low in recent days, really low. Twitter was quiet. Because, you know, what can you say to someone? All these people are going, oh, it's just a temporary thing, da, da, da. What they didn't realize that there's a responsibility by you saying it's temporary. You may personally have conviction that you may trade that, but you got to be aware that other people will be trading based on the trust that they have in you. And so you losing a small amount and exiting, and someone else entering and not exiting when you did, could mean someone not being able to fulfill their mortgage. There are real life consequences. And so I think it's the subject of what I was wanting to talk about was the responsibilities that our words have, and understanding the responsibilities from our side, but also the person receiving the words, and every action has a reaction.
I agree. Some sense, like you have to be, like you can't. If you don't know about something, you shouldn't be talking about it. But if you have a conviction, believe something, then I don't think you should hold back. You should speak your truth, and it's down to every discernment to who they listen to. You know, because we don't all just listen to every single person we hear. You know, I guess some people, you know, the word gullible, it's like not very nice word, but like to believe everything, naivety. I've been like, I used to be a lot more like that. I think if it told me something, just accept it and be like, oh, that's a really cool way of looking at things, or whatever. I just accept that without really playing with the idea much. And these days I'm a bit more skeptical about it, to be fair. And I think it does come down to a lot of it. Like, if you're going to take someone's advice and act on it, you better be damn sure that it's yourself, you know, because you're the one going to pay the cost. Someone says, all right, all of your money and lose it all, then, you know, you have to be yourself, you know. It's a huge amount of joy and independence in communities, you know, when we have to take responsibility, support each other. I think the person who's saying all those things isn't speaking the right truth, kind of thing. But yeah, I suppose at some point, if someone was saying things that weren't true, it would become unethical, for sure, though, right? But if someone really believed in God and they said, follow God, you'll be saved, and then someone like just had the worst time ever, kind of thing, then it's not the person who said follow God's fault.
But I think also, actually, I think you touched upon it on an earlier point in our conversation, was that everything happens for a reason. Every interaction happens for a reason, right? And for example, the feeling that something like that can have is a very unique experience, in my opinion. When you experience something in that particular way, it's a challenge to you, and you can grow from it. Again, it's about perspective. And I guess what you were saying, Zach, how, you know, at one point you felt really low, but at the same token, you shifted your perspective, and you have probably learned and grown from that to a certain extent in a way that you may not have done if you hadn't had that experience. Now, obviously that goes for everything, but the life journey that you are able to take is different for everyone. We may have similar lessons, but it may be presented in different ways. So that lesson that someone might have experienced in, let's say, the stock market or whatever, they might have experienced in terms of like lending money that they didn't have to a friend, and it never came back. you know, and that feeling of like, oh, okay, now I'm in a difficult position. It's presented in different ways, but it's the how does one navigate through that? And you know, I just find it so interesting how as human beings, collective sentiment can change so quickly, and how we influence ourselves so deeply in some cases.
And that's the thing, it's like with this whole cryptocurrency thing, it was like, how I see it, it was literally Elon Musk at that point pulling the rug on Bitcoin, essentially saying, no, Tesla's not going to accept it because of environmental reasons. And then that started a chain reaction of massive investors in Bitcoin to then start flooding it, essentially. So it's like every time the mainstream news is telling us, oh, it's buy it, buy it, buy it, actually sell it. And every time the mainstream news is saying sell it, sell it, sell it, buy it. Because they're trying to constantly take advantage of the public's naivety. So that's the thing. It's like, and there's this chart, this, I can't, Wyckoff's interpretation, or Wyckoff's chart, and the Wyckoff distribution, and it's literally followed that pattern step by step this entire time, and now into this bear market. And it's like, there is all these massive whales are doing this on purpose. So if you're following along with that distribution model, you can work with it. But otherwise, it's just you can get into these states of feeling, oh, my cryptocurrency portfolio has just plummeted 50%. That's my life savings for some people. Heart, what's going on? Mortgage, like life plans.
It also brings up questions of like the power that money plays in people's lives. Like, for example, if one is, you know, if that's all you had, and that's the value that you place in your life, is in like, I needed this to survive, and there's no way I could, if you believe that there's no way to survive without that money or whatever, then, you know, the loss of said money has a specific connotation and context. Whereas if it was an investor who had, let's say, started off with $1 billion and lost even half of that, 500 million, they don't think, well, my life, I'm not going to be able to survive, my life is over. They might be like, you know, very just upset, and they might be quite annoyed. But the mindset is different because the number is different. You know what I mean? Like, one person is going, I won't be able to, maybe think that they can't survive, they can't go on, that's the end of their hopes and dreams. And the other is like, I'm okay. I had a bad day at the office. I'm going to go at it again tomorrow. But they're both human beings, experience the same drop in the market. And it kind of goes back to the thing we talk about in our conversations, in our presentations, about perspective. It's where you place yourself in that scenario, which is the key. It's like when you think about it, right, that storm that you're in might feel all-encompassing. How wild is that storm? And then you zoom out and you see it that it's actually just a little cloud. You zoom out even further and you're a tiny speck in the universe. And it's perspective. I'm not saying it's not a life challenge, but it's how you, it's something that you experience.
Exactly, and it's how much value you're putting onto those things external from yourself. Is, for example, from my perspective, one great way of like handling that situation or investing in general is like, right, this money is going into that investment. I will now forget about that investment. Don't even look at it until maybe 3 years down the road. And then it's like you kind of like change your emotional attachment to it, you see, you know? And so that's what works for many people I know, including myself. And then you have these massive, that's it. Then you have these massive falls in the price, and then it doesn't affect you so much because you're thinking longer term than people that just get scared in a week of trading.
Well, that's the thing, like with people that want like, it's kind of like get rich quick kind of thing. It's like people seeing off like Bitcoin Bank, wow, it's gone up 300% in a month. It's like, wow, I need to get on that bandwagon, and then they put all the money in, and then it drops. It's like, well, it is volatile. Yeah, and when something is that volatile, people's emotions are going to be very volatile. You know, and the number one thing they teach in trading is your emotions. So it's just now trading has kind of become this thing open, like the broad mass public kind of thing, and it's ridiculously volatile. And people are looking like 6 months down the line, or like a month down the line with, aren't they, rather than like 50 years down the line.
It's
it's tricky because I think a lot of the time we are in a rush. We have this like instant gratification kind of lifestyle, like everything's like fast food and microwaves and next day delivery and stuff like that. Why do you need all this stuff this year? What at the time you traditionally retire, right, which would be around 60s, it's like what would happen? What would have to happen to make your life worthwhile? What would you love your life to be? Oh. Sorry, I'm looking at that word like, what does that even mean? Scintillating.
You don't know what scintillating means?
I actually don't. I actually.
Oh,
what does it
okay.
mean?
It's like almost like it's very interesting. It's very
sparkling or shining brightly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I love.
That's very nice.
What? Yeah, and then what? So, like, what would you love to do? Like, end goal. Like, what would you want to do with your life? And plan for that. It's like you don't have to just because you want security. It's like you want to make enough money to live off for the rest of your life the next 6 months. That's not going to work like that.
But the thing is, it's a very interesting topic because a lot of times we equate security with money, with a roof over heads, and yeah, very much so. But also, don't you feel security in people? As in, like, when you're with your partner, or where you're with like a pet. What is with these emojis?
It's just
I love the octopuses.
Or when you're like when you're younger with your parent, right? Wherever you are, in like you feel security. So we forget the people element. We think it's about external things, but what about the human connection?
Well, there's all these different aspects of life, isn't there, that come into like security. It's like health, or it's like security, and like people security, and then money security, and maybe like time. It's like have we got enough time? I guess with when you're a child, growing young, all you want is like human connection, and you start to grow up, you kind of maybe understand what money is. And if you're not financially secure, then you would understand that, and you would probably not enjoy it, or if you have family members that help, you would understand that's not as secure, and you would definitely desire that as well.
Yes. There's going to be a bit curve, but Chris,
we do have money in our Western society, so we kind of need it to buy things.
But what motivates you to make money, Chris?
It comes down to freedom. They're having a whole different conversation over here in the chat. Emoji conversation. I think, yeah, I want to do the things I want to do and not have to worry about whether I can afford it or not. It's not about the money. I mean, if I could do those things with just like trading like eggs with people, then I wouldn't want money. I'd want eggs then. But I suppose like if we come to a service-based society, maybe where we could trade services with people, but it's so tricky to like, how is that going to work exactly? Because maybe I'm a plumber, I want something of someone like over there, but they don't want any plumbing. How does that work? It works by me plumbing for someone else, then paying me money, and then me buying that off them.
But you know that song? I think it was in Pretty Woman. No, not Pretty Woman. What's the one with like Dr. Dude? No, not Dr. Dude. Eliza.
Eliza.
If anyone knows, please type it to me. It's got a Audrey Hepburn in it. My Fair Lady, that's the one, right?
Right.
I presume, yeah. Then there's a song where he's like, "Get me to the wedding on time." Or maybe it's not that film entirely. I'm getting distracted by panda faces.
Can we stop this?
Yeah, sorry.
But it's
I really
it's a
appreciate
song which goes,
the interaction.
I don't need sort of like driving to the wedding and I don't have a fancy car or a horse and carts, but I got a 3-wheeled bicycle or something. You know that song?
Yes.
No. I think I know where you're going with this, though.
Yeah, I'm.
It's quite right. It was funny.
Oh yeah. Anyway, okay. The point of the matter is that when these two people who were in love and got married didn't need a fancy wedding or a fancy car or whatever, because maybe they couldn't afford it, but they had each other, right? And so it's perspective. It's the rich, like you can feel rich in different ways. It's not necessarily so financial based. Like, the richness in life is fixated in particular areas, right? But actually, maybe when we get into our older years or matured, and I don't know, you realize that you could be rich in so many ways. You can be maybe cash poor, but you can be life rich. You can have people in your life that make you feel like a queen, or they're so abundant, so grateful.
That's interesting, like that feeling state, because say in 60 years from now, there's not that many people living in the kind of established societal structure that we subscribe to, that we willingly are choosing to subscribe to right now. And say if we kind of create this community, or there'll be hundreds of thousands of these different kind of communities across the world, but where people you don't even really need money at that point, because the food is being grown and created, the shelter is being made through various perhaps natural and sustainable means, and any technology that's needed, there would be an aspect within that community that would have that kind of means of being able to trade perhaps external from the community. And then it comes to the point of everyone's sheltered each other, everyone's feeding each other. It's all about creation from then on. So money isn't really essential unless perhaps we have some silver or some gold or some other precious.
Well, it's created system, isn't it? I mean, it's been created. The system's been created, and people live within it. And it's the parameters that people can understand. It's like, you do this for me, and I will give you this piece of paper, and then you can go use that to purchase this that someone else has made, and that works fine. But it's just a system. It's one system. And you choose to subscribe that. I mean, if you was living off-grid and you had solar panels and rainwater and geothermal energy and, you grew your own vegetables and stuff, then you realize, actually, do I need to, do whatever I do in order to live? It's like, what kind of life do you want to necessarily live? And that's all down to individuals. All I'm saying is that there is scope and there are possibilities on how one lives one life, on terms that you can dictate, which isn't necessarily, there are different ways to play the game effectively.
Yeah, I think like that. Like, you have to know what your values are. Like, obviously most people wouldn't say that like money is their number one thing. But I think it's funny because most people actually do spend most of their time trying to make money in their life. Like, more time on that than most other things. But I guess that's just, you have to kind of survive. Which is an indicator that something in the system is broken. That most people are having to work and work and work just to get by, kind of thing, just to scrape by. A lot of people are. So it's something's wrong there for sure. But like, I want money so I can do things with the money, so I can have freedom. It all comes down to freedom, because I want the freedom to have time freedom, so I don't have to work all the time. So then I can spend time with my loved ones. And I don't think it's like I could just buy a ticket to Indonesia and just live in a hut and work in a rice paddy and not have any money and be deeply in love and connected to life and really grateful for everything I have. Also, I would like to travel and I don't know how do we connect ourselves to this grandiose idea of the world a lot of the time. Like, oh, I need this much money. It's like, okay, you made £25,000 on Bitcoin. Why wouldn't you just go off to Asia and live a very cheap and humble lifestyle? Like, why do we quite often have these grandiose ideas of wanting to impact millions of people or like do all these different things? So where do they come from? And I think they come from spirit, because spirit wants to expand and express itself in so many ways all the time. Spirit is all about expansion and fuller expression. It's about expressing ourselves in greater ways, more beautiful ways, always. So I think that's where like the human desire, that drive to do more and be more comes from.
But then
And I think like, and there's I think it's so like, if you want to have like time freedom, which comes from financial freedom potentially, and then to spend and have that connection, that relationship connection, and that health connection and security as well, and time security, all those things is like, there's nothing wrong with wanting all those things.
it's interesting you were saying about that expansion, because how I see that, like spirit wants that expansion, but then for expansion to happen, there has to be that contraction. So we've been living in almost, well, so much of our collective has been in this state of pain and suffering and poverty. So now we're going to expand. Yeah. I love what you said.
How to be sufficient and successful enough to lead that life of extravagance and travel and experiencing life, yet manage that business that is successful and needs attending to, and still have time for both. Design your business around something that doesn't need a huge amount of input. That's what I say.
But
it comes,
Do you know what actually is I'm watching this documentary at the moment, I'm halfway through it, and it's called Finding Your Gift. And it starts off with this gentleman who has done very well in the film industry, went to film school when they were young, seemed to have like a really good ride out, and they did music videos and they did Hollywood movies, stuff like that, and did really, really well. And then they were like, okay, so those are skill sets, but what is their gift? And what he wanted to do was to empower people and to inspire people through the medium of film. And so far his journey is about that. He's meeting other people who've had these moments where they're like, well, what is their gift to inspire people through architecture, or is it to is it to heal, or is it to whatever it is, to write, or there are many different ways. So I think when it comes to business, and this is really interesting because I have business ideas, it's like, does it align with what your gift is, or what you for your purpose here is? Because when they align, that's like magnetism of poles. Because like a lot of people can say, well, they got a high-paying job, they may also be miserable and feel very unfulfilled, but they feel like they're maybe tied into this because of security, it's high value. Like you may have all sorts of external factors like family saying you'd be insane to give this up. You've got a mortgage to pay, you've got kids to put through school and university and a wife and all that kind of stuff, right? And you never take that leap. And that's something that, if we have a chance to reset, what is your gift? What is your purpose? Align them and see what comes of it. Place that trust that that ley line will hold true for you.
I think there's many ways of going at it, isn't there? It's like an artist, it's like passionate about art. They want to express themselves creatively, and they say, I don't care about money. I just want to do what I do, and that's what their thing is, because they want to express themselves and they want to have the freedom to do that, and they don't care if like they are financially successful or not. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where it's, well, the other end of the spectrum would be all I care about is money. I mean, like the different way to look at it of I want to be able to express myself, but maybe I don't really know what that's yet. But I want to have the freedom to explore that expression. So the way to do that is to maybe create some financial freedom in my life. So then I can explore different avenues and have the resources to be able to do that. And I think what it comes down to, like having that really deep, you know, like why do I want, what do I really want? And then you will find a way to get it. If you just don't give in, having that strong, intense why, and it doesn't matter what you do. Then in a way, it's just a means to an end, and you find joy in the little things. Like, does a man enjoy mowing his lawn? Potentially not. Does he like to have a nice garden? Yes.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's a means to it. Like, maybe you don't really enjoy what you're doing, but what it creates is what you want. So, and I mean, life can be hard. Work is hard. You know, we are in a point in our history, that our modern history, mainstream history, that is, life is potentially easier now for the majority of the earth than it has been for millennia. So it's we're doing really good, and we've got a lot to be grateful for. You know, we live in very safe places. We do here in the UK. You know, where it's like, I could fear walking outside my house. There's a lot to be said for that, and societal structures that have been built on good principles, and there is a lot of tyranny embedded as well, for sure. But there's a lot to be grateful for as well. A lot to be grateful for.
Sweet. Good.
I have accomplished the old wishes to gain financial responsibility for building rather grandiose aspirations. Amazing. I think, yeah, we do have like a bit of an instant gratification thing in even like in spiritual communities and personal development communities as well, in a way, especially with crypto. You know, it's like that. It goes up and it's like it goes down. It's like if you really didn't care if you only cared for 10 years time rather than the next 2 weeks kind of thing, then you wouldn't be worried, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I thought about this because I was like, I had an idea of what I'd love to do by the end of my life.
What is it?
I'm thinking, I got like 40 years until I'm, oh no, I don't. I got 30 years until I'm 60.
Pretty good time limit in it. Like,
because 60 is like retirement age. It's like 60 is a good time. I'm like, wow, that's a long time to be able to do what I want to do. And it's like, well, technically I could just kind of start that now. I'm like, it's not, and then it's just like, it cuts out a lot of time. There's all these middle hurdles we put in place. It's like, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this. It's like, what would you love to do by the end of it? You know, but what would that main thing? And then it's like, just be the tortoise on the way to that, I guess.
so what is it? What do you want to do?
I want to create community, a sanctuary. It's a long charity. A charity as well, but that's more like, that's sooner. But like long term would be like a sanctuary community, where you have all the best, well, not best, but many teachers there. People can come and do retreats and also learn. So you could come and do a yoga course to become a yoga teacher, or a massage course, or a development course, and have all the best. Actually get natural therapies there. Like,
why do you have to wait 60 to do that?
Well, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean,
set up. And also I feel like there's to attract, to build it in the way I would like, I would need some more influence. So I mean, it's, I don't really have to wait until I'm 60, but that's the thing that I'd like to do for the end of my life. Like, that's like a great thing I'd love to do, and there's nothing really, once I've done that, it's not like, oh, what's next? It's like, that's cool, that's great. Like, and what's the rush now? I'm not like running, I'm not like chasing my tail, like, oh my god, I have to do this like before I'm 40. It's like, no, do you know what? It's actually, it's fine.
I'm trying to imagine you as a 60-year-old. Like I think you'll have like like a full-on beard by 60.
You think?
Yeah, but I think because
it does grow rather slow, so I think it might.
No, I think you do because I think it makes you look wise. Like you feel like this.
I like to have a little bit. I don't really like the huge beard, to be fair. And maybe I will. Maybe
Could happen.
maybe I have long hair as well.
It could try it. I mean, I think the sanctuary could be earlier than you think. It's clearly something that you want, right? And
But I'm not like. But this is the thing, Mia. I'm not like in a rush. It's okay to take my time. I don't have to do it now. I don't have to do it today. Like, oh my god, I have to like go out and make things happen today. It's like it's all right. And do you know what? I die before then anyway, and it never happens. That's fine too.
No, it's not.
And it's that vibration.
No,
it's that vibration of you're like, I'm not in a rush. It's going to happen when it happens. That will make it so beautiful and like really spot on. And it will just be, it'll be right. It'll work as well because you've built such a strong foundation. It's like it just can't help but build itself. And that's just fantastic.
That's an interesting topic actually, because the word patience and time, I think, are two are interesting to clarify on that one. Because when you said if it doesn't happen in your lifetime when you die, then that's okay. I mean, I agree. There's one thing to be patient and to understand when the timing is right, but then also we also have to move towards it. So instead of just going, that is a dream of mine, day by day or year by year, it's like, oh, this year I met this person who will make a great person, a connection to this person. And then maybe a few months later, oh, I wrote this little piece of writing, copyright, which, would look great on the website, or, and a few months, another next year passes, you're still doing something. You're building connections, you're networking, because I think for you, and you mentioned it, you said you need more influence to attract the kind of people that you need to, right? Right?
I believe that.
Is it not a case of like what we were?
Maybe that's just a self-limiting belief. Probably is.
Because we're talking about the laws of.
If you have a vision strong enough, people will just like.
Yeah, because we did a whole course on the laws of attraction, right? If you put that out there into the universe, that you need these people to come in, like to share the message, and they will come. But you have to believe.
Maybe I actually don't want to do that.
Maybe, yeah, like
Maybe I'm like, oh, I'm chilling, I'm vibing. Yeah, but I know what you're saying. I mean, walk the path and put your attention on that in a way. It's funny that came up. Kind of spoke to Zach about this whole thing, and then when I was in Portugal, I did this that exercise. What if every time that dream exercise, and it was like. It was to do with the zodiac, and it was like you have to you put in your midheaven, and then you put in your house, and you put in your actual stars, like your sun sign, and you put in those descriptions into a set out paragraph kind of thing, and it came out that it was like to build communities, exploring the ebbs and flows of life, connection to God, and bringing people together, or something like that. And I was like, wow, this is like meant to be, because I already had this idea kind of thing, and everything just went, all right, that's what I'm doing. What if over time that dream changes? That's interesting. Yeah, I think dreams do change, but I think
it's a combination of what
changes, then maybe it wasn't the right thing, or maybe it changed as well.
Or maybe it led to like.
That's probably why it would change.
Yeah, or maybe it was like you had that vision of that, creating that sanctuary, but then you ended up realizing that actually I want to create what could be better, what could be more grand than the sanctuary. Really, I can't think of anything more grand.
Well, maybe like I feel like if I'm saying like, oh, I need more influence before I can do it, it's just like maybe thinking that I want to do that because I want influence, and maybe by the time I'm 50, I'm like, I don't really care anymore. I'm just going to live my life with my family and just be happy.
But I think in answer to the question, like, it's like what Bruce Lee said when he's like, be like water. It's like a river, it meanders, right? And wherever the meander takes you, it's part of your journey. So in terms of a dream, I mean, I guess when we were younger, right? When you were a child, you ask someone what they want to do, and they're like astronaut, right? Or you know, whatever, and that is their dream at the time, and they get
Dinosaur.
That dinosaur, yes. And then, like, you know, as they go on, the dream changes and adapts, but the essence is still the same. I guess the astronaut is the sense of adventure, discovering new territory, and being the first to discover something. You know, that is a quality. So that dream may take time to form. It may change direction, but be like water. Be adaptable. You know, don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, being rigid doesn't serve your best interest in that particular time.
I think
So
there's a adding on to what you said. It's a really amazing way to look at any situation or any challenge or any problem that you are facing, and imagine how water would confront that problem. So you're facing a challenge. You think, if this challenge was a weird metaphor and I was water, what would water do?
Yeah.
Well, the only constant is change in this universe.
So it's just like, say if I want to grow my business more, but it's not growing to the next level yet. It's plateaued a bit. It's like, if I was water and I wanted to go there, I mean, what would happen? What do I need to do? What if water that situation?
Yeah, but I mean, this is very interesting.
It's like, and I feel like it gives you a lot of patience. It's like, water would just kind of wait. It would just boil. It would just like sit there until it can move, kind of thing, until it does move. And it's an interesting way of looking at things.
The thing is, like, water is so adaptable in many ways, but you have to be, so for example, water is the only element that can be frozen, that can be in a physically solid state, can be in a liquid state, and in a vaporous state. Now, obviously, if you were water and you froze that water and you dropped it, shatters, right? Rigidity, the structure of it's different. If you just raised your temperature and your vibration a little bit more, you're in a liquid state, you drop it and it just splashes out and it reforms. And likewise, if you raise it a lot higher than it changes form effectively. So the point of being about being water is so that whatever situation that you place it in, it adapts to what it's been given. And that's really what it's about. Life isn't linear. Nothing is linear. At the same token, nothing stays the same. Nothing in this world, universe, stays the same. So in that case, you know, if the life is a constant state of change, then you need to be able to swim its currents. Or not need to. You might want to just float. What is the art of surrender? The art of surrender may be just to accept that the flow of the river. If you're fighting the current, fighting it, surrender might be exhaustion, just letting go and letting the river take you where it needs to take you.
Like, instead of paddling upstream, just letting the current take you downstream.
Yeah, for example, if you're battling your, let's say, sexuality, for example, right? You have society and family saying this is wrong, religion, You're fighting the current, you know, by conforming, you know, because the current of life is you, right? You know, this is who you are, if that is, you know, who you are. Instead of resisting yourself based on ideals of other people or constructs that have been imposed on you, what does it feel like to just be in flow with yourself and in flow with another person? What does that feel like?
No, it doesn't really. It kind of. I think it's funny because people say like time flies when you're having fun. So it's like you're in flow, right? So, and time flies when you're in non-thought. When you're having fun, you're not thinking. You're just feeling. You're just in the moment. You're just being, right? And when you're like heavy and deep in thought, you know, you're just thinking all these thoughts, and time slows down because thoughts. Okay, I'm going to go into like a pretty metaphysical kind of explanation of this, but thoughts produce gravity, right? And gravity slows down time, right? So when you don't have any thoughts, It allows time to flow freely. If you like, space-time continuum is like, yeah, if you have space going up and time going across, the faster you go through space, the slower you go through time. The slower you go through space, the faster you go through time. And that's why when you're like on the sun's surface where there's a lot of gravity, time is different. Time slows down. Because, and if you think about it in a simulation, it's just like, if there's a certain processor and it can process a certain amount of information over in a certain amount of kind of space-time, the more matter there is in a space, the slower time goes, because the processor can't actually keep up. So, that's time dilation, which is a weird thing that happens. But and your thoughts produce gravity, right? Because everything's energy, and gravity is what connects all energy together. So when you think something, your thoughts are producing gravity, which is slowing time down. So when you're in the moment, you're not thinking, and time travels really fast. Time flies when you're having fun. Time slows down when you're not having fun, when you're really deep in thought, when you're depressed.
And I suppose a lot of, well, pretty much all thought essentially is either something in the past or in the future. So that's also
a lot of time,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like being in the moment, in that flow state, is like a cool thing. And I think that's the best way, like setting in, like, instead of having to, there's the two, like, if you're trying to achieve something, there's like two trains of thought, right? Like affirmations, say it every day 1,000, 3,000 times, so you influence your subconscious mind. Or you say it once and you truly believe it, because you know as soon as you say it once, it's written in the universe. It's like it's two trains of thought, right? So like, but if you don't believe it, then it's really hard to like know that that's going to happen. So I think like say it 3,000 times until like you can believe in yourself, and then just say it. Well, you don't even have to say it then, because if God knows everything and is everywhere at all times, then you don't even have to even think it. He just knows. So then all you have to do is have an intention, and you just walk towards it, and then there's no thought. You're in that flow state the whole time, and your intention is there, and you're on the way towards it.
I think that what I found really interesting is, and it's a process, is the surrender to the universe. Because there's so many things that ground an individual to the material plane or whatever realms of perception that we have. So for example, I was watching the film Agora, which is a really good film if anyone hasn't watched it, and in it there was a scene where the kind of Egyptian pagan priests and the Christian priests were around this pit of fire, and one scene that the Christian priest walks over the rocks and didn't get burned. And he said to the other person, if your God is real, then you should protect you like he protected me. And the other person got burned. What was the difference? It was belief, really. And I'm not saying that one person was more religious than the other. It's not about religion. But it's there are cases where people do walk over coals and fire and stuff like that, and aren't injured, and other people get horribly burned. And there is something that you have to explore, when every logical, rational mind, logical and rational being the key word, defines that you get burned, right? But when you can remove yourself from those layers and actually have belief and conviction that you will not be burned, and whatever that conviction and belief may lie in, it changes the reality that you exist in. And for me, that is fascinating, how as human beings, I presume we're all human beings, we have these beliefs that are imposed on us, like Chris is so-and-so, Zach is so-and-so, I am so-and-so. Where did these beliefs come from? And what is the real potential of human? And why are we so afraid to explore all of that?
Like why do we believe in ourselves? Why don't we believe in ourselves? Is that inherent? Like, is that conditioned? Do you think why we don't believe in ourselves, or do we inherently just have like low self-esteem, or like we just don't?
I'd say that's 90% conditioning.
I mean, it can to do with certain astrological positions in your natal chart, but
I guess most of the time, you ask a kid want to be, and they're like a dinosaur. It's like, well, that's not possible. They're like, I don't care. I want to be a dinosaur.
check it out.
but then some of them would be like, oh, I don't want to. I want to be a dinosaur, and then they get told that they can't be, and then they'll get shut down. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's when they get told other times, you know, like which is like.
Do you remember when you were young?
Most of the time, you say to a kid is no. It's like, can I have this? No. Oh, get down off the sofa. Stop doing that. No, stop. Don't. Kind of thing. It's always quite negative because you have to like. Kids are so curious and they just want to like do everything, and then you kind of have to put limits on them in a way. But those limits are good in a way. You can limit them too much to what they believe they can do, because you can't just let a kid run wild. Do you know what I mean?
But that's the thing. That's what, and then he's mentioned.
Have you seen have you read Lord of the Flies?
Yeah.
Yeah, kids on an island. Yeah, it's like, you know, you need some societal structure so people can actually like work well together and not just be like murdering each other.
But in this documentary, what it was saying was that as kids, precisely that, we are told, no, you can't do that. You can do this instead. Or no, maybe don't have the fizzy water, have this water, right? Because you're making decisions for your child because you think it's in the best interest of the child. What that does is it prevents the child from learning their own mistakes. So like, oh, I'm going to try the fizzy water. Oh, it's really big and it made my nose watery and I'm going to cry, right? Well, guess what? You may not want the fizzy water next time. But if that option's taken from you and it's like, I know you don't want the fizzy water, I'm acting in your best interest. Well, guess what? When you're an adult, you don't have the conviction yourself to try the fizzy water. I'm not talking about fizzy water as an example, right? But whatever that equivalent would be for an adult, whatever equivalent of fizzy water represented as a child is now that option as a kid, as an adult. But instead of you going for it and taking the fizzy water, you're waiting. You go, oh no, I can't do that. I can't make my own decisions like that.
But then that is true. But then some children would then be really curious and want to try the fizzy water, even though they've been told no, just because they've been told not to do it.
There's also different levels. There's also different levels of parenting, and obviously, you know, when it's a baby, it's like a baby was completely reliant on its parent. It can't make its own decisions. It's completely 100% reliant on its mother. You know, so but that's the problem with like helicopter parents, right? They don't at some point let their kids make their own decisions, and then like all the way up until they're 18, you know, and they're still not doing anything for themselves, and they don't become an autonomous person. But I think so. That's like there's levels, like judgment sometimes in there. You know, like at first, a baby, you can't judge a baby. Oh, you shit yourself, you idiot. You can't judge the baby, but like, you know, it's like a 16-year-old. It's like, if you can help it, don't shit yourself.
No, but what you've got to remember is they are human beings. We're all human beings and they're going through a life experience. So for you to say, you know, oh, you can't do that, you got to be home at 10 o'clock, all this kind of stuff, right? You may say that's good parenting, right? But sometimes you got to learn when to be like, say, okay, this is, if you really feel that you need to do this in this moment, if you really feel that you want to go hiking and not wear Wellington boots, like whatever, right? Go learn what it's like to have soggy feet, right? And potentially have a cold afterwards. Because you need to learn that process. You need to let someone have their own, it's not just a decision, it's a decision-making process, which is important. If you stunt that by making people's decisions for them, then what the hell do you think they're going to do when they're an adult? Oh, I really want to do this, my heart feels it, but I don't really trust myself because I don't really have much experience in this area. They're not going to go that deep into it, but they're like, oh, I really want to do that, but now I'll just play the Xbox or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, but then there's books, isn't there? Like people have done things and then written about them, so you don't have to go and make their mistakes, kind of thing. And Do you think you can only learn from your own mistakes, or can you learn from other people's?
I think
Both.
experience is most important.
It's like, okay, like how long have we been wearing shoes for?
Why do you wear shoes?
Thousands of years, right? It's just like, do you know what? I need to make the mistake for myself to not wear shoes for a while, and then maybe I'll learn that I need to wear shoes, because
Or maybe you learn that you don't need to wear shoes.
or I step on glass and then get gangrene and die.
or you realize you're walking up that hike with your parents and you realize, actually, I do want to be wearing shoes now. And luckily, one of your parents has bought your boots in their bag. And so it's like, okay, thanks for showing me that lesson without me having to endure too much pain. But I got the lesson now without having to endure too much pain. So you could
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's definitely a balance in parenting, isn't it? I don't think like just letting you know is definitely good parenting. Any relationship, you know, it's not a good intimate relationship. It's not a good friendship either. A true friend will tell you when you're messing up. I think, you know. Like, dude, that's not the best thing to do. I didn't think.
Definitely
Like,
could be for you.
Me and Zach were on a hike, and Zach's like, "Look, man, I'm not wearing shoes." And I'm like, "Do you know what? It's pretty muddy, and there's rocks and stuff, and there's like brambles and all that. So I'm not sure if that's the best idea."
Yeah, but then you never know. He could be teaching you something. You can take off your shoes and goes, "Oh, Chris, you know what? Like, I'm really more involved in this hike. I feel more part of the land. Like, the ground is like, I've never felt it like this before." And you might go, "Well, I'll fucking take off my shoes." Sorry, I just swore there. I'll take off my shoes. And when you're like, "Oh my gosh, Zach, you're totally right. But maybe we should put them back on when we get to the scree and the more sharp bits." Yeah, I agree. But for the time that we're on this boggy, peaty bit, like, this feels awesome.
That carpet was.
Yeah, like I went on a walk a month ago with my brother for like 40k, and on the moors I actually took my shoes off. Like walking on this nicest carpet ever on the moors. Yeah, and then it got a bit sticky, so I put them back on.
But actually, on that, as human beings, we have generally forgotten the connection we have with land. Like, when was the last time that your hands felt soil, or your bare feet was in connection with bare soil? Now, maybe it's different for you, Zach, because clearly you were like, actually,
just balls, yeah.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people may have lost that connection because we don't realize that there's a symbiotic connection between us and the earth, and then it's like bacteria that we get through. You know, our bioflora is really limited nowadays. With all the antibiotics and the chemicals that we ingest and stuff, we don't replenish it with, like, you know, a variety of biodiverse things that are in our environment. We sanitize everything to the nth degree that actually, just by putting your hand in soil, people think, "I'm going to get tetanus." And I'm like, what? You're depriving yourself of, like, all this bacterial interaction, friendly bacteria, which makes up the majority of our body. You know, and you also feel this connection with earth, grounding. That was a very interesting.
Before we finish, how did we get onto this parenting again? We're always talking about, like, what the best way of a relationship. But it was something to do with, like, I didn't know.
I have no idea.
But I know 100%. I like the two sides. You know, like working things out. You know, like, oh, what's the best way to look at this here? And if we were just in others' opinions, then we wouldn't really get any deeper into why we're thinking about that, and if that was the right way to look at things. Anyway, so it's just over an hour now. So next time, if anyone wants to join the conversation, and by the way, someone said in the comments, I can't actually scroll down. They're like, "Yeah, do the things." It's like, well, if you want to be part of that beautiful community / retreat / sanctuary connection, because this is where it's starting, guys. This is the groundwork we're laying here.
But this stream was like, we haven't made any way for anybody to come on this particular stream, but it would be not this Thursday, but the next Thursday after, unless we do another one. So when would we actually do another one like this?
That'll be next Monday.
Cool.
Okay. We should borrow these. But yeah, we have a meeting this Thursday, PM. GMT, which is going to be accepting your flaws and transcending them. And we're going to be doing core exercises, all about bringing the best out of ourselves. And there's going to be a presentation that hasn't been done yet. Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Appreciate everyone that came on. All right.
And you.
Too.
Thank you.
Same.